Pod. Pod.
Hello.
Hi, Charlotte. You all right?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I think your podcast sounds really cool, so I feel very honoured to be asked. Thank you very much.
No, thanks for doing it. Appreciate it. Did you say you've been putting children to bed as well?
Yes. Well, I have one who's asleep, and I'm pregnant at the moment, so I have another one coming in January. So
right.
I have two.
So where are you based now then?
I live in Sheffield now.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What took you there? Kind of just circumstances, kind of thing.
So my husband lives here. He's now the drummer for Reverend and the Makers.
Right.
Of course, Sheffield band. But I didn't meet him in Sheffield. We met. He was playing in a different band at the time. We met a festival in Cornwall. But anyway, he spent a lot of time here when we first got together, and I think it's a wonderful place. I've been here 10 years now, and it's definitely home. Lovely place.
Yeah.
Where
what
are you?
band was he when you met him then?
He was in a band called the New 1920, who were a Welsh band, not together anymore. Then he joined Reverend. It's a while ago now, maybe 7 years, something like that. Maybe a bit longer than that, actually. Don't know. A while ago. He's been with them for a while now.
Can you just give us an idea of how you went from starting the Subways to eventually getting a record deal?
So we started playing together as Billy and Josh are brothers, and I was going out with Billy at the time, and him and Josh could already play guitar and drums, and they were playing like Nirvana covers and Oasis covers and other bands that we were into, and they wanted a bass player, so Billy taught me how to play. And we just started making a load of noise, really. That was kind of, there was no grand designs in the beginning or anything. We're pretty young. We were like 15. So we were just making a load of noise, really. And then started to play like the local venues, because we all grew up in Essex and Hertfordshire. So started playing the local venues around there, and started playing a bit more in London. Just sending off loads and loads of demos, and then trying because we were all under 18, so like sneaking into venues that we weren't supposed to be in and stuff, and playing at night, and then going back to school the next day. And we did that for a few years, and then I think a lot of people know that one of the things that really kicked things off for us was winning the Glastonbury Unsigned Band competition in 2004. So we got to play on the other stage. And that kind of really started snowballing things. Like we got to play at Reading and Leeds that year. We released our first single on 7-inch with Transgressive Records, just a limited edition run. Went on our first UK tour, and then things just kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about like your influences and stuff, because obviously you get kind of put in with that indie scene, but I think it's fair to say you had a bit of a heavier influence on a lot of those bands, kind of thing.
I think so, yeah. I think we've always had a love for heavy music, and Nirvana was our big one. I learned how to play bass guitar by learning how to play Nirvana songs. That's how I learned how to play. And I think we've always had a drawing to the heavier bands, and always tried to make ourselves sound as heavy as we can live. So like a lot of the, for me personally, I think it was more on the female side. So I loved Hole. I used to love Ash. And then kind of more of the indie bands we like. This has been really nice, actually, because I started thinking about this time again, and there's loads of bands I've not listened to for ages. So the Bon Bon Bees were a band that I loved, and I was listening to their first album, Lack of Communication, again yesterday for the first time in probably like 10 years. And this is so good. And this was like what was inspiring us at the time, and what felt really exciting, and what made us want to make music.
When you started, did you feel like you were part of a community of bands or part of a scene at all?
I'm not sure if we really felt part of a scene in any way. I think there was definitely, it was an amazing time for music. It's why you're doing this podcast, isn't it? There was so many bands coming out of the UK doing great things, and it was really amazing, great, so cool to be part of that. But I think in some ways we also felt kind of separate from that in a way. I think maybe because of those slightly heavier influences, I think we did feel a little bit different. But then, at the same time, there'd be lots of festivals would be great because the lineups would always be really cool and there'd always be so many bands you'd want to go and see.
We've had people like Kate Jackson on the podcast who said she didn't feel any kind of like different treatment or sexism from other bands. It was more the corporate side of things, where I think they looked at the Long Blondes and said, oh, we don't need a female fronted band at the minute. Did you ever come across anything like that?
I think not really from people I worked directly with. So we've been, I think, especially at the very start, we had an amazing A&R guy. Our manager's been with us since the very start, and they're always very supportive. Other bands we met, I never felt that. But I think the one place I did feel it a little bit was in like the press and the media. I think I don't really think a lot of kind of the popular press really kind of got me or liked me. I think they thought I was a bit, I don't know, I've always kind of, it's a strange one because I think they kind of, I do think there's more, in some ways, there's more pressure on females. I feel like you need to be, you need to be so much, I kind of feel like you get this pressure to be like really, really amazing, or I don't know, it's a really hard thing to describe, but I think it's the media and the press that I felt that they kind of, unless you were absolutely perfect, they'd kind of pick away and they'd always find something to pick at. And if there was a review, it always felt like it was me that they were like picking at. There was like something I'd done that wasn't like 100% perfect. And it was, that was what they'd pick apart. So I think that's probably where I felt it.
I mean, like Kate Jackson said, she felt like she had a bit of responsibility to a lot of the female audience who looked up to her. Did you have a lot of like a young female audience that you felt that looked up to you?
I think it's it's a strange thing to think about because I have been asked before if I feel like a role model or other kind of words like that, and I think nobody thinks of themselves as that because you just think of you as you. But then when you think there aren't as many females, then I think you have to think that perhaps maybe you are in a position where people are looking up to you, and I think it kind of makes me want to. It makes me want to be like the best I can, really, because I'm aware of people like looking at me in perhaps the same way that I looked at other musicians that I thought were amazing when I was growing up, and kind of wanting to give that to them, but like what I was given from bands like Hull and PJ Harvey, and just so I guess it's an odd thing to think because I don't think of myself like that, but then I guess but the nature of being a female in a band is that you kind of become that. And I suppose it's a bit easier to now look back on things rather than, I guess at the time you're obviously not thinking about stuff like that maybe. No 18-year-old thinks of themselves like that at all. I think because we were so young. I think a lot of things I think about that time are definitely in hindsight because we were just getting on and doing our thing, and nobody thinks that much about the world when they're 18. I guess you just just get on, don't you?
Yeah, true. Yeah. And I don't want to get too Hello magazine about it, but I know that you and Billy, like you mentioned, were together at the time, and we've not had that kind of dynamic or that kind of situation on the podcast before. So I just wanted to ask you about that. Like, what's it like? Obviously, being in a band with a partner, but obviously, and then achieving dreams together, it must be pretty unique. It was an amazing thing to experience together as a couple, and to have we did have ambition, and to achieve those things that we wanted to together was amazing. And then now he's still like, he's the person I collaborate with musically. He's like one of my best friends. He's still I think although obviously breaking up with someone is a difficult thing. We were in the middle of making our second album at the time, and so that was the main focus, and having that focus together is what got us through it, probably, because we didn't really have time to because a lot of people don't speak to their exes anymore, which is is quite sad, isn't it? Because you think if you had a great relationship, you don't speak to them anymore. But I think we're lucky that we had the music to kind of keep us together as friends. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's skipping down the line a bit, I guess, but how was that time? Like, did you find it easy to carry on? Was it always like a bit of a no-brainer in terms of, you're definitely going to carry on?
Oh, it was no, I mean, maybe Billy gave a different answer. I don't know. But for me, there was never, there's never any question that we'd carry on and we'd keep making music. Yeah, we were in the middle of the second album, which was something we were really passionate about and really excited about. And we just really wanted to finish that and then tour it and just carry on, but just not together anymore.
Going back to the music and like the early attention you got, I mean, I remember hearing you a lot on Zane Lowe.
Oh, right.
He really championed you. Yeah, what was it like kind of getting that early attention and like getting that radio play kind of thing?
Yeah, Zane Lowe was brilliant. He was very much part of that time, I think, because he championed a lot of bands and he perhaps helped shape it in a way. I think bring in a lot of different bands to the forefront with his radio show, but also with Gonzo as well. And yeah, I think you would just hear. I remember two distinct things. I remember we were in the back of our little van. Which I didn't, at the time, didn't really think of as being a really stupid thing to be in the back of a like little transit van and the like amps falling on you and things. It's probably a really stupid thing to do, but we did that. We went around London playing shows like that, and then I remember being in the back of that van and hearing John Peel playing 1am, which is our first single for the first time. That was our first ever time on radio. And that was hugely exciting. And then we recorded our first album at Elevator Studios in Liverpool. And we'd done the video for Oh Yeah, which was our second single, our first like kind of proper single off the album. And we saw the video for the first time on the screen in the studio there, which was on MTV2. It might have been on Gonzo, actually. I'm not sure. It may have been on Zane Lowe's programme. And that just being completely mind-blowing, just like, this is like really happening, isn't it? It's still a thrill now. Like if I hear a song of ours somewhere, it's still a big thrill to hear that.
In 2004, you went on like a self-funded tour. Was that kind of part of like the DIY attitude that you took to the band?
Yeah, so that came after. So we played Glastonbury, we played Reading and Leeds, and then we released 1am, the first 7-inch single with Transgressive, and then we wanted to tour it. That's all we ever wanted to do was tour it. So we were like, well, let's just do it. And then it took us to like up to Glasgow for the first time, took us down to Exeter and loads of places in between over a month. And yeah, we did it we borrowed my dad's car and Billy and Josh's dad's van and did it in that. And just so much fun, that tour. Like I still like a lot of it's hazy because it's a long time ago now and there's a lot was drunk on that tour, but we were 18, just let out the house the first time properly. Like, it went a bit wild, but it's just such a huge adventure, and just I think a lot of the things that we did, I just look back now and I think it was just so lucky to have had those experiences, and to have done those things at such a young age. Yeah,
can you remember a time when you kind of started playing gigs where the crowd like knew the song and kind of how that feeling was?
I do. Well, it's kind of a bit before that, really. But I remember the first people that came back in London, because we used to play to like so many different, like every like little venue that would have us in London we played at. And I remember there were these two sisters called Mel and Melek. And they came back. Like I was like, you were here last week. And they're like, yeah, you guys were great. It was like, people have come back. This is amazing. Like, are these fans? Are these our first fans? This is like unreal. And they still come to our London shows now, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, obviously, like you were like known for your kind of energetic live performances, with like Billy jumping off all sorts and everything. Was that kind of something that was important to the band in terms of putting on a show, or was it all kind of just organic?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think we always want to do like 100% every performance. That's always been our thing. And we do. That's how we love to play. Like, we love being really energetic, and we love running around, and Billy loves jumping off things. I think he gets into venues and he already starts looking around at what he might be able to jump off that night.
Parkour.
Yeah, he'd be amazing at parkour, actually, wouldn't he? He should do it. But yeah, it's become, and now it's become, like the identity of the band and who we are. That's what we do. Like, we go out and we play live shows, and we have lots of energy, and we have a load of fun doing it as well.
Working with Ian Brody from the Lightning Seeds for that first album, what was that like?
Yeah, he's the perfect. I always think about Ian as, of course, he has the credentials, and he is an amazing producer, and all the work he's done is incredible. That's he's just had an amazing career, and himself in the Lightning Seeds as well. But I think the thing about Ian, which was so perfect for us on that album, was he was just an amazing mentor, and just really made us feel, because I think we could have felt quite intimidated or not, uncomfortable in that studio setting, because our first time being in a big studio like that with this big name producer. But he just made us feel completely at ease, and able to record the songs and achieve something we were really proud of at that time. Yeah,
I mean, we've had the Paddingtons on recently, who worked with Owen Morris, and they kind of said his style kind of, and the way he worked with them kind of influenced their sound moving forward in terms of playing live. Is that something that you pick up from a good producer? I
think so, yeah. And I think the three producers that we worked with for the first three albums, I think in terms of their influence, I think this is more of a question for Billy, really, because Billy produced our fourth album, and he's producing our fifth album as we're working on it at the moment. And so he has learned a huge amount from all three of them, and all the different styles and different techniques. And that is where he's got his knowledge and his ability to produce from.
And when did those like big songs kind of come to fruition? Was it really early on? How many songs did you have going into the studio?
For the first album, they were all done. We've been playing Oh Yeah and Rock and Roll Queen for a long time. They were on the demo CD that we sent to Glastonbury. Rock and Roll Queen definitely was. I think Oh Yeah was. Yeah, Rock and Roll Queen was definitely on the CD. So they've been songs that had been around for a while, and that we've been playing in like London venues and played on that first tour. I'm trying to think if any of them came about in the studio. I think most of them were pretty much done before, and then it was a case of Ian capturing them in the best way possible, as he's so good at doing.
You said he was like a bit of a mentor. Like, can you give us a bit of an example of like what you mean by that?
So there was this pub next to the studio, and we'd go there after finishing recording, and just, I think that was really nice that he did that with us, just to kind of, we're outside, we've spent all day working, and now we're just going to have a sit and just going to talk to you guys about whatever you want to talk about. I also remember one incident where we've got two brothers in the band. It's probably not surprising things were fiery, especially when we were younger. And Billy and Josh had a bit of a fight, and Ian took us out for pizza and kind of calmed everything down a little bit, which was, kind of reset us for the next day. And just, I think, helped guide us through it, and helped guide us through, because we'd done bits of recording, but we'd not, because we recorded that first single, but we'd never been in a huge live room like that before. And just, I think, just giving us the space to just play and encouraging us and making us feel comfortable, as I said before. Yeah,
like, I've never met him, but he does seem to have a bit of a calming kind of personality. Like a calming influence.
Yeah, that's the word that I was searching for and couldn't find. That's it. Yeah, a very calming influence. Yeah, which really is definitely what we needed. We needed to calm down a little bit at times.
Yeah, I suppose you got like all kind of dynamics going on if you got two brothers and a relationship as well.
Yeah, you're not afraid to say what you think of each other. That's the dynamic.
Yeah, did that help in terms of songwriting and stuff, where it could be pretty frank with each other?
Yeah, I think it's what, it is the dynamic that's what makes the band. Although though Josh has recently left us, so it's just me and Billy at the moment now, until we have a new drummer. But up until that's literally happened in the last few months. So for all that period of time, I feel like it is that closeness between us that's what's made the band what it is, I think.
I read that you had one finished copy of the album and it actually got stolen outside a hotel while you were in Glasgow, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, our van did get broken into. I'd completely forgotten that story, by the way. But our van did get broken into and a load of things got stolen, including that. Yeah.
All right.
I tried. Well, I think whoever stole it didn't do much with it, but we managed to get the songs back somehow from somewhere, and it was all okay. But the van did get broken into and loads of stuff got nicked, which was not great at all, as you can imagine. Yeah,
but it wasn't like he's just a random criminal rather than someone trying to bootleg the album.
I think I don't think someone was trying to steal the Subway's first album or anything. I think they just wanted the expensive stuff in it.
And then you mentioned the song I mean, that's definitely the first one I remember on Zane Lowe, and that ended up being number 25 in the charts according to Wikipedia.
Right.
So yeah, what's that feeling like? We've talked to people who said it's a bit surreal, or other people that said it kind of passed them by. Like, what was it like for you guys?
Yeah, I think it always felt like something which, like, record label and people cared about more than us. I think for us, our thing was always like we wanted to play more live shows and bigger live shows, and that's where we equated our success, I guess, or kind of what we never had an ambition to have a number one album, but we did have an ambition to like play the main stage of Reading Festival. So I think but then when you do get in the top 40, especially at a time when there's lots of bands around and lots of competition, it's an amazing moment. And we did get to do Top of the Pops, which I still think is one of the coolest things, especially now when you talk about Top of the Pops to younger people and they've got no idea what that is. But but yeah, I guess that's linked to charts. That's why I've said it, because it's kind of linked to the charts, isn't it? And that's one of the big things which I think we're super proud of.
Cool. Which song did you do on Top of the Pops?
We did No Goodbyes, but we had to do vocal to track, which we weren't very happy about. But everyone has to do vocal to track on Top of the Pops, don't they? Well, a lot of people did.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So like Billy didn't want to do anything Morrissey style with the flowers or anything?
No, that would have been good. Or like Nirvana when they Kurt Cobain sang it like in a lower key. He did just to take the piss out of it. But yeah.
I remember when, I don't remember it because I was about 3, but when Nirvana were on, I think it must have been Jonathan Ross's first ever chat show, and they were supposed to play Teen Spirit, but they ended up playing I think it's Territorial Pistons.
That's amazing. I didn't know that story.
I think it's on
really
YouTube.
I need to find it. That's great.
I wanted to ask you about some kind of like TV stuff, really, because it looked like 2006 was a pretty massive year for the band, and I saw the soundtrack to Kate Moss advert. Was that
right? Yeah. Rock and Roll Queen was used on a Kate Moss Rimmel advert, which is very strange, isn't it? Like it's just an amazing thing, but just like just bizarre to see your song used in that way. It's not something you ever expect is going to happen. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think same year you ended up being on an episode of the ERC, and I just wanted to ask you about this because I watched that program. Well, quite a few of us watched it like religiously at the time.
Yeah, I was one of them. I loved it.
Really? Yeah.
Still love it. Could probably watch that again. Actually, that'd be a good lockdown thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's one of like the most nostalgic things I could watch, I reckon.
Yeah.
Especially with all the music they had on. What was that experience like? Like, I don't know. It kind of seemed at the time when I was a kid, it seemed so far removed from where we were. I think that's maybe like what the appeal was for watching it. Like,
yeah.
What was it like being involved in that? And did you meet the cast and everything?
We did get to meet some of the cast, which was really cool. We got to meet Rachel Bilson and Misha Barton, who I just thought were like the coolest people ever, and that was just like was so starstruck getting to meet them. And we were there for the whole day, So they let us like sit behind like the director's chairs and stuff, and let us just sit and watch the scene coming together, which that was the best bit, really, just to see how something is filmed and just to watch what happens with that. That was amazing. And just such a great opportunity, because like you're saying, the soundtrack for that TV series is one of the things that's talked about a lot for it. And there were so many amazing bands like Def Cab for Cutie and Killers and I don't know, loads and loads that I'm forgetting. And so to be part of that was just such an honour. And I think at the time we just couldn't quite believe that it was happening. But yeah, that's one of the things which I just look back and just so grateful for, and just think we were very lucky people to do things like that.
Well, how did it work on the day? Like, were you playing live, or were you just kind of doing it to a backing track for hours on end? Or what happened?
Yeah, so it was because the actors are talking in it, to hear their lines, we had the song in headphones. So we had headphones on, and we could hear the song so that we were moving around and singing or whatever in time, like we were miming. And then they were like delivering their lines. So that was pretty weird, because we're just like stomping around on the stage, which must have sounded really loud. And then they're like delivering, they're performing their lines. So yeah, that was quite weird.
I think I remember thinking that at the time, like there'd be a band playing and they'd just be having a chat in the middle of the audience. Like a normal level.
yeah. Not even like whispering in each other's ears or shouting in each other's ears. You have to do at gigs. They're just like stood a meter apart, aren't they?
Yeah, and then obviously you mentioned 2006, like played some pretty mega gigs, like supporting Foo Fighters at Old Trafford. And what was that like, first of all?
Yeah, like Foo Fighters were, obviously Nirvana fans, lead you on to being Foo Fighters fans. And I think at that time as well, they were really just killing it live and doing loads of great things, and were just a great band to watch live. And it was, really cool to be. I just can't believe we met Dave Grohl, really. I think that's just ridiculous. And I like Taylor Hawkins as well, which is super nice. And Nate as well, the bass player, he was lovely. But it was just. I sometimes forget we've done these ridiculous things. But yeah, that is very lucky to play with Foo Fighters. I feel like I've said lucky and grateful like a gazillion times in this interview. But I think it's because like nothing's happening at the moment, is it? And so you look back at all these amazing things and you're like, oh man, that was so cool.
I remember, I don't know if I heard it somewhere, I read it somewhere, but I remember hearing that Dave Grohl was quite selective with his support groups as well. Like, did he personally pick you to play on that lineup?
I mean, yeah, apparently that's the story you hear, isn't it? That he chooses. So if he did choose, then it's even better, I think. Yeah. I don't know 100%, but that is what he said, isn't it? That he chooses. So
yeah, definitely.
I don't know. He didn't tell us he chose, but right. Maybe he did. Let's pretend he did anyway.
I mean, going back to the TV thing, like another thing I've not really asked any guests yet is what it's like. I mean, it's a pretty basic question, I guess, but what it's like being on the Letterman show, because again, that was like pretty important in terms of the video. I remember downloading videos for hours of like bands like the Strokes on there and stuff.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a big kind of moment when a band played Letterman. Was that a similar thing for you?
Yeah, it was a big moment for us. I remember being told that we were going to do it, and we were just like, what the fuck? For real? How are we doing this? How is this happening? And that's one of the cooler ones, because a lot of TV stuff ends up being vocal to track, and that was one where you got to just play live. That was good. It's a bit vocal to track. So I think vocal to track is always a bit weird for bands, because it always sounds like it's vocal to track. Do you know how with like pop stars and stuff, you don't necessarily know. You could with their miming, but with bands, it's always really obvious. I think that you're doing vocal to track, but then you're not often given the option to play free live. But that was one where we got to play free live, so that was good. And to go over to New York for a few days, the AC was our first time in the States as a band, and then I think Letterman was our first time in New York. So that was really cool too. New York was somewhere I'd always wanted to go to. And so to be there for a few days was amazing. And then to do the show, we got to meet Adam Sandler at one of the TV shows, but I've forgotten which one it was now. It was either that one or Conan O'Brien, but I can't remember. But yeah, we got to meet Adam Sandler at one of them. That was really cool because, like, he's just a big star, isn't he? So that was pretty good.
Yes, yeah. For the Letterman show, then you literally just flew over for that show and then you went back.
I think we did a few bits of press while we were there, but we're only there for a few days. Yeah.
Ah, right, cool.
Pretty mad, yeah.
What impact did it make playing those TV shows? Did it mean you built up enough following to go play tours there, or did you see any kind of like measurable impact from doing that?
I think really those are the biggest things we've done in the US. I think we did go and play. We have toured there quite a lot on our own. And one of the best tours we've ever done was because then this links us more into like the rock side of things, I guess, was playing with Taking Back Sunday on their Louder Now tour, which the album is incredible. And so that show every night was amazing. Angels and Airways, which was Tom DeLonge from Blink-182's side project, and Head Automatica, and then we were on first, and that was 2006. So that was all part of that time. And that was a super cool thing to do. That was like, we loved that tour. And all the bands on it were there was no like, didn't really feel like that, because even though we were on first, didn't really feel like there was a hierarchy. Like all the bands were like friends. We had tour running club. So me and Atom and David from Angels and Airways used to go running every day, which was cool. Yeah. So that was really nice. It's one of the most like sort of inclusive sort of tour experiences I've had, I think, with where we've been the smallest band on it.
Do you almost feel like more at home with those kind of, I guess, Kerrang bands, for want of a better term, like those heavier bands kind of thing?
I think we've done lots of things with loads of different types of bands, and I think it all just comes down to the people, really, no matter kind of what music they're playing. We've had some great support bands that I'm still in touch with because they become like friends. Because I think if you spend every day together for like 6 weeks, then you get to know each other, which is really cool. And they're bands from like all over the world. Like they're not just from the UK, and they don't just play indie or they don't just play rock. They play there's lots of different types of bands. So I think it just comes down to the people being cool and having a good time with them.
Well, going back to the running thing, I read Johnny Marr's book, and I remember him saying when he's playing in Modest Mouse, he'd do like a 10K before he played a gig.
Yeah. Well, running's always been, not always been, but for a long time. I think I probably started running probably about 10 years now. But it's been like my thing. And it's really good on tour because it's a really good way to see somewhere in an hour, like an hour's quick, swift sightseeing tour. Go run around, see all the main sites, and you kind of ticked it off if you've not got much time. So that's one of the things that that I really like about it. Yeah,
I think I'd have to do something like that for my mental health during a tour. I think, like when I was younger, I could probably, when I was 18, I could have maybe handled it, but at this age, I guess you had to take a bit more care. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's something that it's not something I did when the band was first starting. It's something I've done as I've got older. So from 2010, my husband, he's in Reverend the Makers, but he also drum techs for a few bands as well. And he only runs when he's on tour. He doesn't run when he's at home because he doesn't want to run around Sheffield in the dark and the rain. Like he wants to run in nice places. So that's his his thing, and that's what keeps him staying on tour and gets him. Because if you're teching, I think you can get trapped into getting stuck in the venue all day. But that's what kind of, he gets up in the morning, gets out and does that, and that kind of just gets him some fresh air and gets him out of the venue for the day. And I think you start to, you need that getting out of the venue, I think, as you get a bit older, and just, getting some fresh air.
In 2006 was where you made a kind of the progression to play on the main stage at Reading and Leeds. So was that a bit of a big moment as well?
That was a huge thing for us. Me and Billy had been to Reading Festival, so we first played it in 2004, and we'd been going for a few years before that. just like camping out and watching bands. And like I remember seeing bands like the Von Bondies there, and just like the year before that we first got to play, and just that being hugely inspirational. And I think it's kind of everyone has their festival that they used to go to when they were growing up, and so to get to be on the main stage there was always an ambition that we had, and it was just brilliant. I think 2006. We did it in 2006 and 2008. We were supposed to do it this year as well, but of course that didn't happen. Maybe next year, I don't know. So that first time I think is always going to be really, really special. And we were so excited, and it was so much fun, and the crowd was massive, and it was just beyond anything I think we could have expected.
There's recordings on one of the deluxe albums on Spotify from Reading. Was that the year 2006, do you know?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was that year.
Cool. I was listening to that today, and definitely sound like you made the most of it. Yeah,
is the crowd like I listened to it to prove it, and before we released that, and just like listening to it, the crowd is like, that crowd was amazing. It just, the roar at the end, and then hearing people sing along like Rock and Roll Queen is just wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, your gigs obviously had a lot of interaction with the crowd as well, and we've talked to bands like the Future Heads who kind of made sure they wanted to make sure it's like a full experience, I think is what they said. Is that kind of, I mean, I've asked you this already really, but was that a big part of the performances, like with the crowd interaction and stuff? Yeah,
and it still is. That's our thing. That's what we do. That's why we do it. That's why we love it. Future Heads is a cool band to think about though. We played loads of shows with them in the early days, and they were great. It'd be cool to see. I think they're playing again, I think, aren't they? Are they playing again?
Yeah, they're like similar to you guys. They had all kind of festivals booked and everything for this year. So was it, like you mentioned, the Future Heads, obviously, was there a point where you felt part of a scene at some point? Then maybe not when you first started, but say when you're like, in the NME every week and stuff, did you feel part of that, or was it just maybe something that NME created? Maybe.
I think it is something that I think it's a mixture of both, is it? Because there were a lot of bands, but then I think the NME kind of drew them together, and like you were saying, like Zane Lowe kind of drew bands together and kind of formed a scene. But then there was loads of like, Charlotte said, the Future Heads, a band that we played loads with in the early days, and it'd be that you'd see the same bands, or you'd end up doing like Christmas specials, or like I remember doing like an XFM Winter Wonderland a few times, and it'd be sort of similar bands on there. Yeah, so I think they were, we were definitely part of that part of that time. Yeah.
Move on to the second album then. Obviously there was a 3-year gap between the first and second albums. So obviously I wanted to ask about why it was that amount of time, and also if you felt like, we asked bands if the kind of dynamics or the pressure changes going from the first album to the second album. Obviously it's a bit more pressure. So
we've actually, and just talking about the 3-year thing, we've ended up with 3 years between every album. Not on purpose. It's just how it's happened. Although the fifth album we're working on at the moment, there's like, I don't know, when there's 5 years. Well, it's not going to be released this year, is it? So it's going to be like 6. But so there was 3 years between the first 2 albums. And that wasn't on purpose. That was just because we talked about a lot of the touring and the things that we did around the first album. It's just because we were busy doing that and wanted to do, we love touring and we love playing. And so just wanted to do that as much as possible before starting on the second album. And then you asked about pressure, didn't you? Sorry,
I kind of put like 3 questions in one there.
No, it's okay. I just realised I've gone off on a tangent about
sorry.
Not what you asked about.
It's just interesting from like the outsider point of view. Obviously, before you get signed and stuff, you kind of write in to your own end kind of thing. I just wondered, and some people have said pressure changes when you start working with a label where they want to continue that commercial success. I just wondered if that's something you guys felt, if you felt a pressure to keep up that success.
I think I didn't really feel it at that time. I think if it was happening now, I think I probably would feel it. And I think I just put that down to age and perhaps being young and a bit naive and just being like, this is so cool. Like, we're in LA recording with Butch Vig. This is amazing. And not really thinking beyond that. but that's down to naivety. I think it probably was there, that pressure, but we were just so focused on doing what we were doing, that I think, yeah, maybe if you asked our manager, maybe he'd probably say there was pressure, and there was definitely, it was the same record label. We parted with them after. We did part with them after the second album, but it was Warner's for albums 1 and 2. But then it was a little bit strange because a lot of people left around the second album. The one person who were really upset about leaving was our A&R guy, Neil Ridley, he's like a friend, really. He found us and he got us signed to Warner's, and he left around the recording, just, left the label. So then it just became a different place. It wasn't like the place that we went in and said hello to people anymore, because we didn't know anyone there. It's just a bit different.
You mentioned working with Butch Vig, who obviously produced Nevermind by Nirvana.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what was that like?
I think when you when you have a wish list and you don't think it's going to happen, that's how that came about. Well, that would be good, wouldn't it? Like, not thinking that would happen.
Oh, right, so it was your suggestion to the label?
Yeah, and then there was links with him because he's also the drummer in Garbage, of course, and same label. So there is links.
Right.
There is links within the label to get to him. So yeah, it's not like we just sent him an email or anything and he said yes. We did have help to get it. Yeah. So yeah, that was, of course, like you said, he's the producer for Nevermind, which was the album for us when we were first starting the band. But also one of my heroes, and still one of my heroes, is Shirley Manson. So the fact that he was in Garbage was just so cool. And he was still pretty young at that time. So I think I was 21 because I was drinking in bars. So this is how I equate things, because a lot of things we did with Young Fraternity, we weren't, me and Josh, because Billy's a couple of years older, me and Josh weren't allowed in a lot of the venues we were playing, and we'd have to be I remember one venue in Silver Lake where we had to be escorted in for our show and then escorted back out again. Yeah, they're pretty hot on that in America, aren't they? But everyone could have a gun. But this is not this is not a discussion for now. But yeah, it was really weird to be 20 and have been drink. Well, I mean, in the UK, everyone drinks, and at that time, I was going to bars and stuff when I was 16 and hiding in the corner and people buying drinks. But to go from that and then kind of feeling quite adult at 20 to then all of a sudden you're not allowed in the place you're supposed to be playing in was really weird. Yeah, so anyway, we're not talking about that. We were talking, that led me onto it, because I think I was 21. I think I was 21 when we were recording that. So still pretty young, really. At the time, I think we felt we were we're so much older now because we're working on our second album. 21's young. That's looking back on it now. But yeah, to work with Butch was dream come true. And again, that should have felt like a really daunting experience. And before we went, we were really nervous about it. But he just made us feel so at home and really comfortable and able to perform. Yeah, because I think before I was how on earth am I going to sing in front of Butch? How am I going to do that? I don't know how I'm going to do that. How am I going to do that?
Yeah, does it kind of make you want to raise your standards a little bit, obviously, with someone like that? Oh
yeah, for sure. It brings out the best in you, I think, because you want to do the best you possibly can, and want to. There's a lot of imposter syndrome with what we've done. I think you just think, how are we here doing? How am I doing this? And then you can't think about that too much, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it. You kind of just have to I think a lot of it, I think that's how we got through a lot of these things, is we just did them. And then I look back now and I just think, how on earth did we do that?
So if, say, Ian Brody was a mentor figure, was Butch Vig a similar figure?
Yeah, I'd say so, definitely. He was very, it just felt like he was very caring. He always bought snacks into the studio, which I know that's just a little thing. And there was this really nice wine that he used to bring in because he knew I like that, and that was really nice. He used to drink a lot of that wine. And then just you kind of like caring and looking after us by like it just felt like he really cared about us, and cared about what we were doing and believed in what we were doing and wanted to support us through it. Because I think he recognised that we were still so young.
Was it the same studios as Nevermind or not?
I don't think so. No, it was. I don't know. That's bad, isn't it? I don't know when Nevermind was recorded. That's the type of thing. As a true fan, you should know, isn't it?
The real. I should know it, to be fair. It's like a real famous one where Fleetwood Mac recorded as well, I think. I can't remember that. It might not be anywhere near LA. I can't remember.
No, I don't know. Sorry. The one. Yeah, we were in Conway Studios, which does have a lot of. I'm not going to remember any of them now, but a lot of albums have been recorded there.
And I mean, were you quite used to being in the States all that time? Or did that kind of add to the whole, I don't know, the whole madness of it was being in LA as well as working with Butch Vig?
That's definitely part of the fun because we did have, do we have 1 or 2 days off a week? I can't remember if he took, I think he took the weekend off. I can't remember, but we definitely had days off. And we drove up to Malibu for one of them. We drove down to San Diego for one of them. And we just like, hung out in LA. There were loads of bands playing, so we went to see bands play, and just that was all part of the adventure. Really, was to live, but kind of like live because we were there for, I think we were there for 2 lots of 6 weeks. I think, or maybe it was 6, maybe the second time wasn't quite as long as that. Maybe it was 4. So it definitely felt like we like lived there for a little bit, which was it was all part of the adventure. Really, it's the same with like I kind of be different, but similar to like we lived opposite the studio in Liverpool. Like we had an apartment there for the amount of time that we were recording, and it's just really exciting to get to go live somewhere else for a bit. That's kind of all, and that sort of city that you're in kind of is always kind of a lot of the memories you have as well of recording.
Yeah, I think one of these random NME articles I read was you got that Hot Heat played a kind of exclusive or small gig for the new album or something, and it said that you guys are there in LA, I think.
That sounds about right. Yeah. I used to really like Hot Heat. Bandages, that's a great tune. We definitely saw, I think I do remember seeing them. Yeah, I do remember seeing them. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Just
checking their backs. Yeah. No, it's nice thing because that's something I'd completely forgotten. We went to see Hot Heat in LA, but we did, yeah. This is been the nicest thing about you asking me to do this, because I have like thought about a load of bands. I wrote down a list of bands because I was like, I've forgotten so much about that time, and they just because you just move on in your music taste, don't you? You listen to different things now. So to look back and listen to some of these albums again has been really, really cool.
Just trying to get an idea of what it was like, kind of finishing the album with him. Was it like a big achievement when he finished it? Did it kind of feel like you really achieved something?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so proud of that second album. I think of all of the album, obviously I'm proud of all the albums, but there's just something about that one. I think because of just the song, I love a lot of my favourite songs of ours are on that album, and just the sound of it, he's made it sound incredible. And things we were going through personally, like me and Billy broke up halfway through it, and we still stayed together and finished it. So there's all those sort of associations with it. If you want a nice story about finishing the album, on the secret track, This Is the Club for People Who Hate People, it finishes with a gong, and we did get a gong and we lit it on fire, and Josh hit it and we recorded it, and that's the gong on that, and that was the last thing we did for the album, so that was pretty cool. And we did have, like, I remember the last night, we had like a few drinks with Butch, and also Billy Bush, who's his engineer. He was a huge part of it as well. And he tours with Garbage too, so he's all part of that family. And it was just looking back on that, it really was an amazing thing to do. And so So I'm just going off on a tangent thinking about things now. But it was, brilliant.
Did you get any pictures of stuff like that with the gong and everything?
Yeah, we got a picture of the gong. We had to get it. Our manager was there. He's not stupid. He knew we needed a picture of the flaming gong.
Good album cover, to be fair.
Yeah, and Josh, I think he's topless hitting it.
Yes. Obviously, you said about, the good live shows that you played with the crowd interaction and stuff. And obviously, you guys are still going. But is that something that becomes quite addictive, kind of that live performing?
Yes, it's absolutely addictive. And in my later life, not later life, but it's ancient, but of recent years, I said I got into running. I also got into doing long distance triathlons. And it's because it's the closest thing, like crossing the finish line of a big race is the closest thing I've found to being on stage. It's not the same, it's not as good, but I think I'm definitely searching. That's what I love about it. And I love the sense of race day is almost like a performance. And it's almost that kind of build up to it. And I think that's why I've loved this as my hobby, because I'm chasing that same high that you get on stage. And I kind of still want it, even when we're not on tour. So I've found something which is as close as I can get, I think.
Yeah, I've started doing, I have no idea what it's like playing a big gig, but yeah, I've started running a lot more. I used to do quite a few events, not triathlons, that sounds mad, but like 10Ks here and there, and it's quite addictive as well in its own way.
It is addictive, yeah. I think in a similar way to the playing shows is addictive, yeah. And there's something like you always just like crossing the finish line is a great feeling, isn't it? And you kind of want that again. And playing for that, it's why we do tour so much. And it is quite hard at the moment not playing shows, especially as we were in the middle of a tour when COVID came. So we had to all just like go home, which was pretty sad. And then now we really we just really miss it, and can't wait to get back to it. It's definitely addictive though, I'd say that. Yeah.
What was that, a UK tour? Oh.
Yeah, so we were doing which links to your podcast, we were doing Young Fraternity tour.
Right.
So we're playing in the UK and then going into Europe with it as well, and we got 3 shows into the UK tour. And then it was a very weird weekend because we just didn't know what was happening. Like, should we still be playing these? Are these happening? Like every day we didn't know if the show was going to happen because it was like right before the lockdown came. Not right before the lockdown came, but right before things got weird. And so because luckily it was weekends, so we just did that weekend, and then we're not like, either way it doesn't feel right to be playing shows anymore, no matter what the government decides. So we're just not doing next weekend because it just feels so wrong. It's so to go from 2 weeks before being really excited about it to then being like, it feels wrong to be playing shows because we're bringing loads of people together when they're all going to be touching. It's just it's really strange, but that's not what this podcast is about. But it's only because it was the Young Fraternity, so we were playing Young Fraternity in full. That's what we're doing on that tour.
Oh, cool! Yeah, a few bands have done.
A few bands have done it. Yeah,
I think I went to see the Croods one where they played the 3rd album.
That must have been cool.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, and then I think Block Party did a similar thing, didn't they?
Block Party did. I went to see Garbage do their first album. That was a few years ago now, though. But a few bands have done it. Yeah, I think it was fun to do. We will finish that tour eventually. Don't know when, but it was fun doing it.
Yeah. I think more bands should do it. It'd be real cool to see. Even like I remember when the Cribs did like a different album for 3 different nights.
Oh, that's cool. Like that's a really cool.
More bands should do that, definitely. Yeah.
So Reverend did. I didn't get to go because I was away on tour, but they did 2 nights at Sheffield Academy, and they did albums 1 and 2 on the first night, and then 3 and 4 on the second, which must have been really cool. I've seen the video footage from it, and it looks really cool. Yes, it's a nice idea.
And then, yeah, just like obviously we talked about big gigs, but I saw as well you played at Wembley Stadium with AC/DC. Is that kind of another pinch yourself moment type thing?
That was funny because Finn Lizzy was supposed to be playing, and I can't remember why they didn't now, but they pulled out with not very long to go. I don't know, like a week or something. And then we were called in to do it. So it was a bit strange because everyone in the crowd is expecting Finn Lizzy, who we are not at all. So it was a bit strange. But then, for Billy, like the first rock show he went to was his dad took him and Josh to see AC/DC, and he plays an SG because Angus Young plays an SG. So, to get to be on the same stage as him was really cool. We didn't meet them, but we did meet Angus's wife, who was really nice, and she said that she thought we were really good, so that was cool. And it's like Wembley Stadium. It's massive, isn't it? It's just ridiculous. It was another one of those like just crazy moments.
Yeah. What was the stage like? Was it one of these that's like we've got loads of room to like walk around? They have like a platform where you can walk down the middle and stuff like that.
I can't remember if there was one there. There was definitely a platform at the Foo Fighters gig because Billy jumped off it. He ran down the end and jumped off it. And Dave Grohl was like messing with him, like, "Hey, Billy, motherfucker, you jumped off my platform."
It's a very NME gossip type question, and maybe it's one for Billy more than you. But I did read there was a bit of a ongoing beef with Baby Shambles. Like, sounds like Billy wasn't a big fan of Pete Doherty back in the day.
I guess more of a question for Billy. I don't think there's any big beef between them. I think
it's first time we've used beef on the podcast anyway.
Beef. I think we did well. I say we played. We were on the lineup with them at quite a few festivals, which they often didn't play because he didn't turn up. So I think that was his thing with it. He just wasn't really into the fact that he often didn't turn up.
Yeah.
Pete is obviously a very troubled man, isn't he? And it's not necessarily he wasn't turning up because he didn't care. He just didn't. He's obviously going through a lot, and it's not necessarily realizing what he's doing. Perhaps, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we do go on to the third album, again, you're kind of like racking up these big producers, like working with Stephen Street.
Yeah.
I had a couple of people talk about him, and the last people to talk about him were the Paddingtons, who kind of said he was quite...
I didn't know they worked with him, actually. That's cool.
Just for one single, I think, yeah. Who said they went from like Owen Morris, who was like working all through the night, kind of nocturnal.
Yeah, we met Owen Morris in the early days. He was crazy.
Yeah, I'd love to get him on. Like, we've had so many stories.
Yeah, he'd be a good guest, definitely.
But they said Paddington said they went from working with him, which is mad, to working with Stephen Street, who was like very just like 9 to 5 type attitude, kind of in the studio.
Yeah,
was that similar to you?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he definitely was very. But I think most of I think all three of them were kind of like that to a certain extent. And very organised. Like we've always worked with very kind of organised producers. Little Butch Big Thing, which me and Billy have both now taken on, is he had a whiteboard, which he wrote down the songs. Then he wrote like drums, bass, guitar, vocals, etc., and then like crossed them off as you went along. And me and Billy now both do that individually because it just looks good, doesn't it, when you start filling your crosses and things start getting ticked off. So I think we definitely like that kind of organisational aspect rather than the chaotic. We've not worked with anyone chaotic, and I don't think that would work that well for us. I think we're more, we like the organisation side of it. I think Stephen was definitely like that. And this album was done in London, so a bit closer to home for us. Stephen, like, I'm a huge fan of, always really like Blur. We'll never a lot of people get to choose between Blur and Oasis, and we never had a favourite. We just like them, but I think because we were maybe a bit younger, so we would just So we it was okay to like them both because it all happened. You didn't have to pick side anymore. So I was a big Blur fan. And bass player wise, always really liked what Alex James did bass player wise. So yeah, to work with Stephen was really cool. And he was just like, again, he's like, really, I think he used to take us out for drinks. We just like people to take us out for drinks, really, don't we? This is what I keep saying about all these people, is it? Like, yeah, just take us out for drinks. Yeah.
How was he different to the other two producers? Would you say like anything that kind of stands out?
I think maybe one of the big differences by the time we're working with Stephen is I think we were a lot more grown up, and I think I think just had done a lot more by that point, and so we're perhaps a bit calmer. We were more, we were kind of more organised about what we were doing, and kind of had a lot more. Yeah, a lot of I think with all the albums, a lot of the songs were ready, but I think with the third album, a lot of it was kind of we were very kind of knew what we wanted, I guess, and not that we didn't know what we wanted for the first two, but I think that level, I think it was us that was different, really by that point. And he just kind of perfectly complimented us at that time, and kind of just let us run with things while also kind of putting his mark on it a bit as well.
I read the release out with something called Pledge Music. Was
yes.
That kind of? I didn't fully understand the idea behind that. Like, what was that about?
So I guess that was kind of almost like early crowdfunding. So people like pledged to raise funds for the release of the album, the recording of it. People could pre-order the album, or you could get an album and a T-shirt, or I don't know, various different things that we decided to, like we did meet and greets, and something they sang on the record. That one of the songs called "Down Our Street," the gang vocals. You could be the gang vocal, and just various other things. So that's how that worked, and then in conjunction with that, it was distributed via Cooking Vinyl.
Oh, okay.
And put out by those. So it's kind of a combination between the two, Pledge and Cooking Vinyl, because they were the label that put it out. Yeah.
Right. So you moved on to a different label by that point?
Yes, that was so 1 and 2 was Warner's, and then 3 and 4 were Cooking Vinyl.
Right, and they're also
in the UK. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And they're a bit more independent, are they?
Yeah, they're a bit more independent. They're quite a big independent still. They're not like a small label. They're quite, but yeah, they are an independent label. And yeah, they've been really cool for us for those 2 albums. Yeah.
And yeah, just in terms of like creative control, was there ever a time when you had to kind of fight for that with a big record label, or not really?
I think we're very lucky to say we've always been allowed to do what we want, which I think is a rare story. I think there's more stories of that not being allowed. And of course, the producers we work with have suggestions, and all 3 of them, and we've taken those on board and included them. But that was because we thought they were good ideas, not because the record label was telling them to make the next big hit or anything. Yeah, we did Hammond on the other week, and he was saying for the second Dirty Pretty Things album, the record label made them go with a cover on the album that was that had the band on, because apparently they reckon the stats show that it sold better. Really?
Like weird things you hear like that from record labels that demand weird things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were lucky that we've never had anything weird really like that. There's been a few things where they've asked for things to be remixed over and over again, which is seemed a bit pointless, but there's not really damaging our creative control. So I think we've been quite lucky with that.
And then just going into, or just looking at the reaction to that third album, like I was looking on NME, who didn't give it the kindest review. Are you bothered by things like that at that stage, or you just kind of, you've been around a while at that point and you kind of just get on with what you're doing?
I think I learned pretty early to never really care, because I think the NME, whilst they were they included us a lot. They weren't always that nice, especially about me. So I think I just learned to, as long as we like what we've done and we're still able to play shows and go off and, do our thing, that's all that really matters. And if luckily there's people there to watch us do that, so that's good. That's always a good thing as well. Having fans is a nice thing. So I think I've never put too much emphasis on what the press say. But of course, if you've got a really nice review, that's a lovely. I think it's been taking on the nice reviews and not letting the bad ones bother you too much. I think it's good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, just skipping ahead to the fourth album, you went back to kind of it was like a self-titled album.
Yeah. Was
that kind of a bit of a signal for going back to your roots, or was it just because you'd run out of names?
It was. I think we kind of felt like we were going back to roots a bit of that because sort of looking back to things that inspired us in the early days. Again, kind of, sort of a bit of a reflective album, I guess. Billy producing it as well for the first time. And that's kind of where we felt like if we're ever going to do a self-titled album, now is the time.
Yeah, so Billy produced it then. Was that like obviously a lot more hands-on in terms of the band kind of getting involved in the sound? Yeah,
so Billy's a very, very talented producer now. And he's learning with everything he does. He wants to do more of that, not just with us, but with with other bands. That's definitely something he's really keen to do more of, and he's really passionate about. He has done, aside from what he's learned from the amazing people we've worked with, he spends hours and hours, days and days, like researching and learning about new techniques, new gear to use. Like he's really talented at what he does.
Yeah. Save the record label a bit of money as well.
And also it was kind of nice. It was just like, so we have a rehearsal space, so it's just set up. There's no like, we've booked this for 4 weeks, you need to finish it. It's just like, we just do it whenever, and it takes as long as it takes. Although that's different at the moment because I live in Sheffield and Billy lives in Hertford. So I'm recording my parts at home and sending them to him. And he's still in the studio, so it's a bit different. I've jumped forward to the next album, haven't I? But right. So it's because we were talking about so that's what we were doing before COVID came. It's just permanently set up there. So, and Billy just has his room there, so he can go and mix and like fiddle around with stuff and just whenever he wants. There's no like, which is that's a really nice kind of luxury to have, and having a bit more time to think about things. And it kind of takes as long as it takes, which is good.
Yeah. I read that in the early days, Billy had kind of record everything. Yeah. Is that right? Like that similar approach he takes now.
Yeah. So he records. He quite often just records little like voice memos or things on like his phone. Like if he's just had a little idea, just so he doesn't forget it. Which I do that as well because like otherwise you just forget things, don't you? But that's something he did used to make our first demos, those demos that we were sending off into London all those years ago. We used to record them in Billy and Josh's mum and dad's like their house, and it wasn't a very big house, and it was a terrace house, so I'm sure their neighbours hated us, but we didn't really think about that. Just sort of I don't know if they ever said anything, but I didn't. Now you're just like, if there's a band playing next door, I live in a terrace house now, so if there's a band playing next door, like, what would you think about that? I don't know, but
I know what you mean, definitely. I'd like to think you'd be cool with it, but probably definitely not.
I think I'd be cool with it unless my children want to sleep. But yes, that's how Billy kind of first got started with he's always had an interest in it, and he's always done it. But I think it was fourth album where he really took the reins himself.
And I was reading, you mentioned your studio then, or I was reading on Twitter that, or is Billy trying to crowdfund for it or something?
We are selling loads of equipment at the moment because so basically the deal with it is we rent it and then we sublet it, and a lot of the people in the other rooms, because of the things they do, they can't do them at the moment. So we've lost some tenants, and obviously we've not got a huge amount of money coming in because our main source of income is live shows and they're not happening. So yeah, to keep the studio, Billy's just like going through and selling loads of stuff that he can find, and we're just trying to get money from where we can to keep it, because I think it's a luxury to have it, but I think we're very close to finishing the 5th album now. We've got 4 more songs to do, and I think we definitely need that finished there. I think Billy needs to have it finished there because that's where everything is. That's where he's working, and it would be, it'd suck if we had to move out before that was finished.
Yeah. I saw Jack White was doing a similar thing, to be fair.
Was he?
He did like an online auction for loads of stuff he'd found at his studio. Like you could buy like all the drum heads from Hardest Button to Button video and stuff.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Like, it's all an auction thing.
Yeah.
Well, obviously they're for mental prices, but yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Some funny things on there. There's like some, like C DJs for like
really
a pub disco or something.
Yeah, it's amazing the things, like, when you've been in a place for a while, it's amazing the things you've found that you've been hoarding.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you about, I mean, you've touched on it already really, but just what would you put the longevity of the band down to, do you think?
I think we love it. We do genuinely love it, and we still love it. I think a lot of people fall out of love with it, and then because as you get older, being away from home becomes harder because maybe you have a partner or maybe you get children, and it just becomes more and more difficult to leave home, and you can't tour in the same relentless way you did when you were, because a lot of bands start when they're quite young, and I think if you don't love what you're doing, then it doesn't, all those things are not really worth doing. But we do genuinely still love it. I think we've also been lucky to really the UK is not somewhere, and it is still somewhere that we play, but we've been able to play in Europe quite a bit. I think if we're talking in terms of like sort of more boring financial stuff, I think in terms of keeping income and things coming in for the band, I think it's being able to play lots of festivals across Europe and being able to play lots of shows across Europe, and that's been really essential for us. And that's like Germany almost feels like our second home. That's somewhere that we spend a lot of time, and that's a big thing that's enabled us to keep it going, and to still, this many years later, I still get to call this my job, which is, I always find it strange calling it a job because it doesn't feel like being in a rock band should be a job, but it is what, they're able to do that still. So that's really cool.
Like obviously you mentioned your partner at the minute is involved in music as well. Has it been a bit of a strange time for you both really at the minute? It's
been strange. It's also been quite nice because I think you have to find the silver linings in these things, because otherwise everything just looks really grim if you think about it too much, like the bad stuff too much. But this is the most time we've ever both had together, because he plays in River in the Makers, but he's also a drum tech, so he gets taken away on tour a lot. When the Subways are touring, we tour a lot, and then we have a family now as well. We have children, so there's a lot of like passing the children between us. The nice thing about this time has been to have that quality family time together. And then I've been really grateful that we're working on the new album still at the moment, and I've found a way to do that from home. So that's kind of been a real source of sanity for me, to be able to still have something positive that's going forwards and looking beyond this time. And I think it's obviously a shit time for music and a shit time for the arts, and the lack of support that's being given by the government. It's just really, really difficult for a lot of people, and I feel so lucky that I do have something to be focusing on still, although obviously not getting directly paid for the album at the moment. At least it's in more of a like artistic and sanity point of view. It's nice to have something to look forward to, and beyond this, there's something that we're planning to do, and we're going to release it, and we hope it's going to be great, and we're going to tour again.
Yeah, so you're not tempted to poach your partner for for your drummer then?
I think then he did play drums for us for maybe 5 weeks of one really long 10-week tour, because Josh wasn't well. So he has played for us before, but it becomes all kinds of complicated if we even go down that route. So, so no.
Would you say there was a particular high point from like any of your time in the band, really?
The optimist, I like that question, because I thought, well, the optimist in me likes to think we've not reached it yet, and it's coming.
Play, yeah.
It's coming. But then a lot of things we talked about, like main stage, Reading League is a good big one, and then main stage like Rock am Ring, Rocking Park. Main stage, I think a lot of the main stage big European festivals are definitely high points. But yeah, I hope maybe there's a better one coming, perhaps.
Is there anything you do differently?
No, because I think there's, everybody has regrets, and everyone has things that they cringe about, or they wish they'd not done, or they wish they'd done differently. But then everything's led you to this point, and everything has led you to those things that you've done. So I think you can't have too many regrets. Yeah. Things might be different, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, you've not done bad, have you, to be fair? Is there a song or album that makes you most nostalgic about that kind of, that early kind of period?
Yeah, it's Lack of Communication by the Von Bondies. Just played that until it wore out. And then, like I said, I was walking somewhere the other day and I put it on. I was like, this album's great. This is at the time, because like there's Carrie and Marcy, the two, they played guitar and bass and they both sang in it. And that's who I wanted to be. Yeah.
We kind of try and get an idea of how you would have found it if you're going to start the band now. Like, how do you think it would be more challenging, or how do you anticipate it would be different if you're starting the band now?
So I think things are very different in the music industry. When our first album came out, downloading was something that people did, but it wasn't something that was widespread. Whereas now, like, I think if you asked a 16-year-old to buy a CD, they'd look at you really confused, wouldn't they? Things have obviously changed massively in that respect, which does have an impact on, when we were first coming out, record labels were still like spending ridiculous monies in advances on bands. So you're kind of having the money to tour and produce albums and things, and that's obviously not quite as a big a thing. Or they kind of want to do 360 deals and things like that with bands now, where they take a bit of your merch and they take a bit of your touring, and they kind of like they take a bit of everything, really, not just your record sales. So that aspect of it is harder. But then I guess there's a lot more, things like Instagram and Facebook, like social media, and then things like SoundCloud, and like there are ways to get your music out there instantly now, which is a positive for new bands. But I think in general, I think it's just different, and I think it's just a way for bands to find their way through. Because the thing is, like, sometimes being in a band can be a bit expensive, like buying a guitar, an amp, and buying a drum kit. They're not like cheap things. So just, I think it must be hard now with like, I think financially for bands it must be quite difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I was started to like do like bonus episodes and stuff, and with new bands. I was talking to this Canadian band called Kiwi Junior, who have been going for like 15 years in different kind of guises, and they've released the first album, going into the second on Sub Pop, but they've still got jobs.
Wow.
And so it kind of shows that, like you said, the money is just not what it was, kind of thing.
Yeah, because I feel lucky that I've never had to do anything else yet. I mean, it may still come. May still come. Depends how much COVID fucks things up, really, I guess, doesn't it? But so I feel like very lucky that I've not had to do that. And then I think that's a story which is, for a lot of bands, like, it's what they do. Yeah, that they have a day job still, and they're not sleeping because they're playing in the opposite end of the country the night before, and then get up at 6 for work or whatever, and like that must be incredibly difficult.
Trying to get a Gallagher story out of people. I'm right in thinking did you support them at one point, or am I imagining that?
Oh no, we did play with them. I think 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 because they were on that Millennium Stadium gig in Cardiff with Foo Fighters. That was Oasis and Foo Fighters, and then once at Hammersmith Apollo, which was like a obviously that's a small show for them, so that was like a pre-album celebration thing or something. I don't know. And then the big one was oh my goodness me, what is Manchester City's football ground?
City of Manchester.
The oh no not old. Oh my goodness me.
No, yeah, it used to be called City of Manchester when they played it, I think.
Yeah. We played there with them. That was obviously a big thing. And we played that the week before Young Fraternity came out, or the day before Young Fraternity came out, or something like that. But yeah.
Well, I think you mentioned them briefly, but were you kind of fans of them growing up?
Yeah, huge. Billy's like, one of the first songs he learned to play was Supersonic. That's always one of his stories.
Right.
Yeah, Supersonic was like the first song he learned to play. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And we're big fans of. I think everyone is shaped by Britpop, aren't they? Of like my age, because it was a bit. I was a bit young for it, but it was still like, it was a massive part of pop culture, wasn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was watching that gig on YouTube quite recently, actually, because I think the first song Oasis play, like the barrier cracks at the front.
Oh right! Wow. To
start the gig. I don't know if that was the one you played. It must have been.
It might. They did do quite a few gigs there at that time. So maybe it was. It may have been the one we played, or maybe not. But yeah, that's pretty mad, isn't it? That must have been terrifying.
So yeah, I don't know if you got a funny story about them, or just a kind of funny story about any time, really.
So the only that we did meet both Noel and Liam. I met Noel. I was in the catering, and he was stood behind me. I think I was just like messing around near the coffee machine or something, and I was like, "Fuck this! Oh God, what do I do? I think I just was been a bit weird because I've just been stood there for ages." And then he said hello to me. I was like, "Oh, hi! Yeah, thanks so much for this." But I just like made a total tit of myself. So that's we didn't party with them or anything like. I don't have any like wild stories about them, but they were nice. That they were nice, and that's of people you get to meet, like it's to say that you've stood next to like Noel Gallagher or Liam Gallagher is pretty cool.
Yeah. Because I think Noel's the same, like we're saying about Dave Grohl picking support bands. Get the idea that they kind of do the same thing as well. We
heard that they liked us, and they'd said, one of them had said something, or maybe both of them had said something about us in NME. They said that when they were asking him about new bands they liked, and they'd mentioned us. And that was like the biggest thing that ever happened to us. It was amazing. I think, I don't know, my mum's probably got that NME article still or something. Like, it's just, that was cool.
Said you have quite a big following in Germany, because I noticed some of did you do some special recordings for Germany or something?
Yeah, we did some. So we've done a few German things. Billy always sings Rock and Roll Queen in the language of the place we're at. So earlier in the first lockdown, we released Rock and Roll Queen in 20 languages.
Right.
So yeah, of just that final verse in different languages, and then it's something we started doing it in Germany first. Can't remember why we started doing it. I think we just thought it'd be fun. And then this big German band called Sportfreunde Stille, they did MTV Unplugged and invited us to come on with them, and they sang it on that, which was like a pretty big thing. It went to like number 1 in Germany and stuff. It was like, wow. They're pretty big there. And then We Don't Need Money to Have a Good Time, which is on the third album. We recorded a German version of that as well, and we sing that in German when we play in Germany, the last chorus. Yeah, so Germany's like, it's a big place for us. It's where that's our biggest territory, definitely. The country's kind of, Germany has quite a big influence on obviously like Austria and Switzerland, which are German speaking, but then the countries around that, like Poland and like Czech Republic and Slovakia. So it's quite a good, I think that's kind of been really good for us because it is Germany and that's the main place, but it's kind of where that spreads to as well. And you know, like German MTV and stuff is shown in like Poland and Czech Republic. So yeah, it's quite far reaching.
For some reason, I imagine you get a very good rider in Germany. I don't know why.
Oh, they do. Yeah, you get the food is great. Like they do really, like you always get really nice catering. It's genuinely like touring Germany is very pleasant.
Yeah.
and they have really nice beer, and it's just nice few weeks whenever you're in Germany.